You, Doc.
Hey everyone. So thank you for joining us for this evening's Get on Code, our Black Empowerment. So shout out to Seiko Varner for allowing me to be here. This evening we're talking about Black knowledge, Black economic development, and we're going to talk about how Black people can increase having our own concepts, theories, research, and actions, and also what it means to have general theories. So Seiko, do you want me to get started on the PowerPoint now too?
Let's go.
All right. Let's see if we do it this way. All right. Can you see that? Okay. I still don't know how to use StreamYard. Okay. All right. No, that's not it. That's not it.
That's not the one you want to use?
No, the one I just shared is separate, a different one. It's the Black Concepts one.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, that was the one from our last show. That was a great show, by the way.
Oh, well,
Really
thank you so
enjoyed
much.
that show. Really
I,
enjoyed that
I
show.
look forward to our people contacting us for questions with that. Do you see the other one that is supposed to be up here? No. Okay, let me try it this way then.
All right, I'll go ahead and remove it for right now. And then, well, no, just go ahead and try to get it right.
Okay. All right. Listeners, do not give up on us. All right. Yeah, this is it, the one that's popping up.
Want to send
So
some
the
explanations from Black financial advisors what we should teach each other?
no, that's the old one. That's from 2 weeks ago.
All right. All
So
right,
the
try it
other
again
one,
then.
yep, it says it's processing. Nope. Yep. Yep, here it is. Black concepts, Black theories, research, and actions. That's today.
Oops. Code Keepers, I hit the wrong button. That was my mistake. We're going to get Doc back on here in just a second. Tonight, we're going to be dealing with Black people, Black knowledge, and Black economics. So, what are we going to be talking about? According to Doc, there have been thousands of years of research and information on how we can better arrange ourselves and our resources to make sure that things go well.
You just kicked me out. Okay. You don't have our people giving up on us. All right. Kicking me out. All right. Do you see the PowerPoint or did you?
Hit the PowerPoint again for us.
Okay.
Powernomics is a great concept. I really enjoy the book Powernomics. I also watched the video. Yeah, so I'm glad you brought that up, Anderson. All right, let's see. Yep, we're back.
All right. All right. So, Black concepts, theories, research, actions, Black economic development connects with health and education. So, just starting off, I'm a theorist. I do research also. So, when talking about Black theory, you want to understand what we have done for thousands of years regarding theories as Africans, and what we have done for centuries as racially Black people, and what theories we've created on Western Hemisphere, particularly in the United States of America for centuries. We have centuries of theories. That's one thing I want our people to understand. So we have specific theories which pertain to specific issues, specific topics, and then we have general theories. So general theories are generally applicable. They can be used or initially presented by the theoretical expert as one topic, but a general theory means it can be then applied to anything other theorists choose to apply it to. It can be used in all types of research. And remember, every theory, every concept, and all research can also be restudied, critiqued, analyzed, and that's the component of positivism that we use in the social sciences. So, one example of integrating and addressing general theories, if you're looking at Black concepts, Black theories, and Black research, is we could talk about the veil. So, W.B. Du Bois addressing the veil and wearing the mask. Let's say you wanted to make that a general theory. So, Du Bois did a lot of writings and also a lot of community work. And of course, the veil and wearing the mask. And even if you look at Sam Greenlee's the book and movie, The Spook Who Sat by the Door, that specifically pertains to Black people. But let's say we wanted this to be a general concept, a general theory that can be researched by everyone to pertain to anyone around the world. It means it can pertain to non-Black people and can pertain to non-racial issues as well. That can be difficult, yes. But the whole idea would be then it would pertain to power dynamics, underrepresentation, and what does it mean to have to wear a veil, wear a mask, to coexist in spaces, to benefit from the spaces, to utilize spaces, similar to if you use Sam Greenlee's Spook Who Sat by the Door. What if you are any person who's an underrepresented demographic in that setting, and you are sitting by the door learning in that space? So this is an example of why I want, as Black people, us to present general concepts, general theories, general research, and general actions, because this advances our people, and it also illustrates how we have developed something so unique, so amazing, that it's a knowledge and a science that expands for the remainder of human existence. So this is something that's very important to understand here. All right, so you all can contact me at Kimya@365diversity.com if you want information about Black concepts, Black theories, research, and actions. What does it mean when we have our own? And we can add other concepts, theories, research, and actions. But as a people, how can we really advance if we don't even know our own concepts, theories, and research and actions? And this is something that Harold Cruz outlines that I will talk about more. All right, so here's an overview of this. For family, friends, communities, and collectives, we need to read more, learn more, discuss more, challenge more, critique more, answer more, and have more solutions. And so this is what it means to develop our knowledge as a people. A lot of times, unfortunately, we equate our culture with being a bunch of talkers. And I want us to understand that talking also is connected with our cultural knowledge. It's also connected with our science. It's connected to our mathematics. It's connected with our art, our literature. So we have to, as a people, understand our origins and not just think that we're just blabbering without some actions coming from it, but also that we're just blabbering without it being based in knowledge and facts. Because a lot of times people will say opinion is opinion. Well, opinions can matter, but we also want our people to know how to challenge a lot of things and make sure that we get more facts spread amongst each other, among families, friends, communities, and collectives. So this is where I want to talk about economic development, since I do specialize in Black health, education, and economics. So utilizing resources paid through our taxes that connects with financial development, also with health resources and education and learning resources. So there are, in every city and every state in the United States of America in particular, there are resources that we have that are paid through our taxes. The resources can say that they're funded through the mayor's office, through the governor's office. They're funded through organizations. But remember, most of these people are not doing this out of pocket. Well, first of all, their pocket, if it's their salary, is paid through your taxes a lot of times anyway, okay? So this is something that I want our people to definitely make sure that we understand this, okay? Make sure that we understand what it means to use resources paid through our taxes, utilize other resources that are not paid through our taxes, but the resources are still available for that. That includes trainings, academic degrees, job skill development, workforce development. And as I always explain, Brother Vaughn and I have talked about this many times. I want our people to have good financial planners, tax planners, life insurance, living will, health, and dental insurance. So I always refer people to my wonderful financial advisor, who also researches investments that are based on not harming people. So this is one thing. I want our people to stop telling me that you're saving money in a safe somewhere. I also want you to understand that having a financial advisor means that you're saving money in a place where the money can actually grow. Investments, emergency funds. It's different than just keeping money stored somewhere. It's different than keeping money in a pillowcase or something like that. And this is where we have to understand what our ancestors had to do, what our elders had to do, and why they do not want us to be stuck in what they had to do. We always got to remember the advancement of our people means we got to learn over centuries, over generations, over decades, what our people do not want the future generations of our people to keep having to do. So that's something that's important to understand there. All right, so just throw back here, forms of capital. We have human capital, what you know. What's the knowledge you know? What are the skills that you know? Social capital, who you know and how they know you. So some examples, we talk about Nan Lin's social capital research. We talk about Mark Granovetter's strength of weak ties. What does it mean when you are in spaces where people don't know each other personally, but they extend themselves so that they can meet their weak ties? They can meet people that they don't really have a connection with, and they find that they actually get more resources, including job resources, when they're not already connected with somebody. And particularly women, and particularly racial and ethnic groups such as Black, Indigenous, Native, have a difficult time with these strength of weak ties, because we come from cultures where we're told oftentimes, don't get too out of our comfort zone, only interact a whole lot and only tell a whole lot to people that you already know, especially your family and close friendships. But if your family and close friendships do not have access to resources, including jobs, you're missing out. So there are a lot of writings you can understand this. You can also read Deidre Royster's book, where Deidre Royster talks about Black men in working class, labor market, competing with white men. And also when I do class exercises with my students, we will do an exercise where I say, you all don't even know each other. Y'all sit in the opposite side of the room. And I say, now I want you all to interview each other, share your resume with each other. And over the years, students have gotten jobs from each other. They realized that there was an older student sitting at the other side of the room who's actually the manager who hires based on a job application that a student on the opposite end had applied for. And that's an example of the strength of weak ties. So this is where I want to also remind our people about integrating concepts, theories, research, and actions. As I started off in the introduction, talking about what it means to have specific theories and general theories. So integration is very important. We call it theoretical integration, because as a people, specifically Black people, we have this tendency to be told that we have to choose one side. That's the only side you choose. You have to be opposed to the other side, and you should not integrate anything else other than the side that you are told to select. And in addition to choosing that one side, you can't learn how to critique that one side you were told to choose. I want us to get away from that completely. We have to understand that Black people, we have various approaches for centuries regarding race. We have various approaches, various perspectives that can all be integrated. Never should we ever abandon each other out of disagreements over socio-political views. We have to instead see what parts can we integrate with each other because we have common denominators, and just let each other know, let's not be harmful towards each other. Let's unite and see what we can do with this. All right. So the examples I have up here, and I want you all to think about this theoretically, because when we look at old examples from a century ago, now we have to look at contemporary race. That's the thing about theory. Theory means that they never go away. Instead, for the remainder of human existence, you take a theory and you say, how do we apply this forever? So something from the 19th century can apply to the 20th century, can apply to the 21st century, can apply to the 25th century. That's what we as a people need to understand. So here I have Booker T. Washington. Booker T. Washington looked at collective development. If you understand Tuskegee and everything, you also understand that Booker T. Washington's approach was also such that chosen segregation was to prove that we can really self-develop, develop our inner resources as a people, have our own pharmacies, have our own resources. And that proving that we can do that could possibly eventually lead to having larger goals in the larger society. Then I have up here Anna Julia Cooper. So Anna Julia Cooper wrote the book A Voice from the South, which was published before W.B. Du Bois's Souls of Black Folks. And Anna Julia Cooper believed in having common ground for community building. And looking specifically at Negro women, having these spaces where we can be vocal, but for our people in general to have these common grounds for community building. And then W.B. Du Bois here, which of course, if you all remember, Booker T. Washington and W.B. Du Bois went at it quite a lot. And the disagreement here was that they initially disagreed because NAACP focuses on racial integration. But then W.B. Du Bois shifted his focus because then he started looking at cooperative economic development for our people. And that's when he became quite similar to Booker T. Washington. And that's why I want our people to understand integration, because once you start to really critique yourself, read more, learn more, interact more, also as you get older and more experienced, you'll start to notice that your perspective will change. Your perspective will evolve because we as a people have to evolve. And that's when we have to stop trying to always disagree and say, you know what, I disagreed with this particular thing, but I get the larger point. Even if you don't like the tone and the wording of it, you get the larger point, and you're starting to see how you can shift into understanding what that person is saying and how it can be used to advance our people. And that's what Du Bois eventually started doing with Washington. And I'll talk about Du Bois a little bit as well. And here's Marcus Garvey, of course, Booker T. Washington-based focus, race-first focus, economic development, and entrepreneurship. So Marcus Garvey got more support than the NAACP. And this is a huge deal, because what does it mean when you get this huge support from a race-first focus? Now, the support started to dwindle, unfortunately, when the focus became economic development and entrepreneurship. But this is something that we have to talk about for our people. What does it mean when we get past the stage of pride and even outrage over oppression to now talking about actions for making changes in terms of economic development, making changes in terms of education resources, and health services for our own people. And health services for our own people have been done for centuries. Booker T. Washington did health outreach work. Du Bois did health outreach work. Marcus Garvey, of course, founded the Black Cross Nurses. You can see what the original Black Panther Party did when they used to have on corners, they would have nurses and other health resources when the whole focus was on our people. So that's an example of what Garvey's approach did. And then Magdalena Walker is an example that I always use because of what Magdalena Walker accomplished regarding that savings bank and the first Black woman bank president. And then I add some Harold Cruz here because Harold Cruz's Crisis of the Negro Intellectual is a lot of the work that I do to address economic development. And I'll talk about Harold Cruz in a little bit. And then I add some Thomas Sowell because as an economist, Thomas Sowell is still alive in his 90s. He's a former Black radical who shifted his focus. He used to talk about chosen segregation and how it advanced our people. And then he shifted it and said that actually, unlike other immigrant populations, Black people will no longer benefit from only having access to our own resources. And that's something that is interesting because Thomas Sowell emphasizes the role of class, and Thomas Sowell takes a global perspective. Now, William Julius Wilson, who's also a sociologist, as am I, talks about similar approaches to Thomas Sowell, the difference, many differences, but William Julius Wilson did emphasize class a whole lot, but then William Julius Wilson started being honest and saying that class does increase in significance, but race is still significant. So although Thomas Sowell talked about our people becoming more and more independent in the sense of self-reliant, William Julius Wilson did still demand more changes from the government. So that's an example of how you can disagree with components of each of these people, but you can say, okay, theoretical integration, conceptual integration, and actions do not rely on agreeing with everyone. You just see what you can use. So this is why I'm just breaking down Du Bois really quickly. If you read his Dusk of Dawn, you'll see chapter 7 outlined on page 100, where he talks about capitalism shift of the New Deal. So over a century ago, capitalism in European nations, Canada, and United States of America were integrated with components of European socialism, but USA is still the most capitalist of those nations. And then here you see the New Deal. And then Du Bois talks about the shift of financial capital and then changing the product and profit industry here. So this is also where Du Bois did his first attempt to construct an economic program. So cooperative economic program, that would be self-sufficiency. What does it mean to develop our own? And the example that Du Bois was using here was during the Great Depression. If you use this from a theoretical standpoint, the idea would be, you know, that he went based on the Great Depression, but now how does it apply to the year 2024? Because every fiscal year, there is a threat that we're going to have another Great Depression, right? People often call it the new Great Depression. So this is where we have to understand how to apply Black people's concepts, theories, and research and actions for every generation of our people. Now, NAACP was opposed to Du Bois's model. Of course, he's a co-founder of NAACP along with Ida B. Wells and other co-founders, but they were opposed to it because NAACP was back then and still now very focused on racial integration. So when Du Bois expanded his approach for a cooperative economic plan, Du Bois also left the NAACP. All right. So then I'm just going to break down some parts of Harold Cruz's approach, which you can read in The Crisis of the Negro Intellectual. He has a lot of wonderful writings. But Harold Cruz was honest. He was not going to put in the work to do this in action. Instead, what he wanted is to put this on paper and for our people to pull this to develop our own concepts and theories and research, and then put his proposals into action. So he expanded Du Bois's cooperative economic plan. And he had the so-called revolutionary agenda up here. And so I just explained this a little bit. He used Harlem as his example. So the socio-cultural revolutionary agenda is the cultural institution should be controlled by Harlem community-wide citizens. So again, he looked at Harlem, but again, if this is a general perspective, you could apply it to anywhere, everywhere. So planning commissions, what does it mean to be nationalized, operated, administrated for the educational and cultural benefit of the Harlem community? And again, this would apply everywhere if you make it a general concept. The segment of his second proposal was the social organizational revolutionary agenda. Blacks with business skills coming together to create cooperative economic plans for buying, distributing, selling commodities. He was very honest. He said, no Black leader, no Black organization has asked Black Americans to develop this discipline and the cooperative economic organizations. And this is what we call the development of the Black inner world here. So we can say we have some Black leaders and some Black organizations who have been part of this development of the inner world. But back then, as Harold Cruz was calling out, there were no organizations because Black organizations, for the most part, were based on racial integration or based on everyone go back to Africa without an understanding of what does it mean to develop our inner world here, develop our people here. And so there are some organizations that are improving on this, but the consistency and who they're reaching is always the question. Are they reaching the general Black population? All right, so this is where I also will highlight where Harold Cruz says that Black politicians and Black civil rights leaders have an important role in our lives, but they are not the central component of this. They are not the center of developing our inner world. Instead, it's the Black artists and Black intellectuals. And by the way, Black artists are Black intellectuals. Black artists are Black scholars. So you'll see me say that a lot also on social media. I say Black artists, intellectuals, scholars together because all of it goes together. All right, I will stop there. So anyone who wants some shared writing, so I post shared Google Drive links and all types of PDF for books and articles and other writings on the internet and everywhere, because I want Black people to understand that book banning does not stop us from reading and bringing knowledge into schools. So I always tell us that look here, everybody wants us to be outraged. And they know that Black outrage leads to Black people pausing. We need to stop that. Okay?
Wait. You're saying that we get outraged and then we pause?
Well, that's the design. The design is political changes, economic changes, banning books. You know, whenever I see school teachers and school principals and superintendents and them hashtagging on the internet, they're talking about, oh, they're making us ban these books. Look here, these decision makers do not care enough to risk anything for us, right? So this is where we have to understand they want us to be miserable, outraged, and oppression, and then relying on them to make changes eventually. But all of these people whose paycheck still happens will never stop doing that. All the people who work for the schools, all the people who work for the government, all the people who work in law enforcement, all these people who work in medical and health fields, and I specialize in health as well, they all rely on us not being unknowledgeable people. We have to, instead of being skeptical and paranoid, we have to be knowledgeable, be an informed patient, go to your appointment, be an informed student, go to class. The list goes on. So that's what I'm a proponent of our people doing.
That's intriguing. I wanted to highlight some of the people that you highlighted with images, right? So Maggie Lena Walker, a giant in my mind. I recently was part of a group that formed a Toastmasters group. And as we were kicking around ideas, I was like, why don't we name this the Walker Business Leaders after Maggie Lena Walker? And they're like, who's Maggie Lena Walker? Oh, so glad you asked me. So now we have the Walker's Business Leaders Toastmasters group here in the Hampton Roads area. And it's named after this beautiful, this visionary, this insightful, this forthright sister named Maggie Lena Walker.
Who's from Richmond, VA, just like I am. We got the Magdalena Walker School. We have the Memorial area on Broad Street. So shout out to 804 RVA.
Yeah. 2 up, 2 down. 2 up, 2 down. So Maggie Lena Walker and Code Keepers, if you're not familiar, definitely do your research, do your Googles. you mentioned Harold Cruz. Now, you always mention Harold Cruz. And I have to admit, didn't know anything about Harold Cruz until you started talking about Harold Cruz. And now I'm seeing what you see. Now, I'm not saying that you're a Harold Cruz head. I think I may have given that impression in our last conversation. But I'm starting to see what you saw, particularly when Harold Cruz talks about developing our inner world, and you referenced it today by saying inner resources. Wow, that's a that's a conversation we're going to have to revisit. How do we better develop our inner world? And go
Yes.
ahead.
Yeah, so part of what I just explained and on the PowerPoint slides is developing our inner world, financially developing, gaining our own resources, and knowing how to integrate our people's concepts, our people's theories, our people's research. So I am a Harold Cruz head in terms of a big supporter of Harold Cruz's approaches. But like I told you last time, I still critique Harold Cruz. Harold Cruz was honest. He didn't want to put it in action. He was like, I'm putting it on paper. And similar to when you critique some of Thomas Sowell, if you say, Thomas Sowell, why didn't you give us solutions? Thomas Sowell will be like, all of these books, all of these articles, everything I've told you, what you need now, why don't y'all do solutions? So some critiques are valid regarding Harold Cruz and other people. I tell everyone, in learning all of this, you really know that you know when you actually can review and critique. Don't critique just because you feel some type of way. I always tell people, you can't just feel some type of way. It has to be an intellectual, knowledgeable, factual critique. It can't be, I don't like them because I don't like them, or I don't like that one book. It has to be, okay, tell me about that book, and can it be integrated with something else that actually has realistic solutions for our people?
Okay, yeah, because we do have the tendency to throw folk away over one dispute. I know I was like that. I I was like that during my real fiery warrior stage, where I was like, the NAACP, get rid of them. Because of the Spingarn Award, right? um, and now I'm a member again of the NAACP. When I don't want to use myself as a total example. I do think that Marcus Messiah Garvey, one of my visionary mentors, and I think that your family were Garveyites.
I'm a UNIA member.
UNI member. Okay, right. There's not enough that we can talk about when we talk about Marcus Messiah Garvey, the good and the bad, because I think we can learn from some of the challenges that the association had as well.
Yes, and that's one thing I want our people to remember. I, as a UNIA member, I want everyone to know that Marcus Garvey critiqued himself. When you read Amy Jackie Garvey's writings, which she did a lot of the writings for UNIA, you'll know that Garvey was critical of himself. And all of our leaders, all of our trailblazers, all of our ancestors and our elders who are honest, they'll be honest and say that they had flaws that they want you to learn from. They want you to do something every generation to try to perfect without ever being perfect. But Marcus Garvey would never want supporters and defenders who pretend that what he did was just perfect and that he didn't critique himself. He actually wants us to compare and contrast ourselves to him. He actually wants us to learn from him and say, okay, we're developing beyond what Garvey did. Because Garvey had a lot of errors. Like, he had accountants back then, but they were not good accountants, which is why what happened regarding the ships. And there were so many issues. Now, Amy Jackie Garvey, after Garvey passed away, Amy Jackie Garvey changed her focus because she started becoming anti-capitalist. That's also when she wanted to do maybe some collaborations with Du Bois and some other approaches. And maybe if Garvey had lived longer, he might have changed his focus as well. Doesn't mean that he has to be anti-capitalist, because I want Black people to understand that Black capitalism doesn't always mean that you're pro-capitalist in the sense of, make money no matter what. It means that you understand that all forms of economics around the world have some form of profit in I mean, I always tell people that, like, if you want 100% socialist or communalist, the moment you want profit, you're going to have to say this is going to become more and more capitalist if you don't want the government to 100% control the model, the product, and the outcome. And so Garvey understood that. Um, but that's a difficulty because Garvey created a lot of businesses. Most of them failed, but he created it because he wanted our people to understand this is possible to try, but that
Yeah,
improvements
yeah.
only happen if you try it, it fails. Instead of clowning each other and clowning yourself, say, what am I going to do different the next time? And that's what I want people to understand about Garvey.
Well, that's a good message, though, that he tried many things and some of them failed. Many of them
Yes.
failed. Because when you
Yeah.
look at serial entrepreneurs, and I'm one, and I'm around many of them that are extremely successful, they'll tell you about their path of failures and how at some point something worked. And because of the failures in the past, they were able to say, okay, I see this devil coming. I know how to deal with this devil because my failure in the past. You know, instead of being a loss, it was a lesson. So I think that's one of the things that we need to really wrap ourselves around Garvey's teachings, because he said, hey, take some chances. Some things are going to work out. You know, he didn't say that in his writing, but he said that in his actions. And so that's one thing I truly love about Marcus Messiah Garvey, particularly that name too. The name is hot.
And I want to highlight.
Julius
Can I
Wilson.
just can I just highlight Garvey
Okay.
being called Marcus Messiah Garvey? He didn't really want to be worshipped, though. I just also want to remind people he wanted to be celebrated and appreciated, but he doesn't want to be worshipped. And that's also important because as a people, we tend to have this like when you go to Ocho Rios, you'll see Bob Marley's estate, and they have this like huge glass pyramid of where he's supposed to be buried, and you're supposed to they're like touch it, yeah. And I mean, and when I went there years ago, they were like touch it, you'll feel him. We don't even know if he's really buried under there. First of all, like we're tourists as far as they're concerned. But I think really we got to understand a lot of these people did a lot of work that they sacrificed their life to do. And they don't want to be worshipped in that kind of way. They really want you to learn from it. So Garvey's a similar thing.
Okay. Cool. William Julius Wilson. First time I'm being exposed to that. I've seen the picture before, but in terms of being brought up in a presentation, this may be one of my first times. Why is he so important again?
Well, he's always been important. So he's a fellow sociologist. He's still alive. He's so funny. I always tell Black people a lot of things. It's like, bam! It's always been important. Our Black folk, we have to remember, just because you ain't heard something, it's always been important to some people. So, so William Julius Wilson, he and Thomas Sowell are the only people on the list that I provided who are still alive. And so, as a sociologist, William Julius Wilson has a lot of writings, a lot of presentations. So if people contact me by email, I will send them some of William Julius Wilson's writings. His most popular book is The Declining Significance of Race. And I remember when I was in the doctoral program, I think it was like 2005, I had to do a report in a class for the book. And people were wondering, would I have a problem with the book? Because the title, Declining Significance of Race. However, unlike many people, I actually read the book. You can't go based on titles of books, right? What William Julius Wilson was not saying race is no longer significant when you read the book. Like a lot of our colleagues in sociology had disdain for William Julius Wilson because they thought he was conveying that race is no longer significant. That's not what he was saying when you read the book. I think he chose a title because it's an attention grabber, kind of like what people do when they do like videos on the internet now. They're like, what's going to get the most attention, right? I think that's why he chose that title. What he really was saying is that class is increasing in significance. That's what he was saying. And as I explained after Thomas Sowell, class does increase with significance, but remember, race is always interlocked with class. Gender is also interlocked. Like when you look at social welfare, there's a high representation of women and children in social welfare programs. And so that's what William Julius Wilson's explaining. So if people email me, I can send them a lot of his readings and his presentations as well. You're on mute, I think.
Yes, I was. Okay. Yeah, so Code Keepers, if you want to email the doc, the email address is right there. Hey, we're time for a quick commercial break. I want to say that my system, my series, Generational Flip, I released it on YouTube. So Code Keepers, you don't have to go to generationalflip.com. That's generationalflip.com. You can go on YouTube and just type in Generational Flip, and you'll see the full episodes for episodes 1, 2, and 3 for this.
Say that they are living paycheck to paycheck.
You will be wealthier.
My wife and I were flipping our first house.
When you shift the way you see things, then your life is going to shift.
Money is a tool for what you want. Money is not what you want. You don't want money.
So that goes to show that you don't have faith when you do not take your money and put it into those accounts to earn interest. When you're scared thinking that something is going to happen, God says, who are you trusting in? Because I'm the one that has created the money system.
Well, I then got offered $350 million for my company.
It says you owe about $538,000.
That the individual and the individual family unit is responsible for filling their own cups.
I went from being homeless and living on the street to owning properties in Baltimore.
And that's why I decided to start a bank.
This is something that Martin Luther King spoke about.
Stupid mistakes and failures. We continued stumbling forward
because the Black community, for the most part, had to go in rent.
Yeah, so the must-see documentary Generational Flip is available on the Get On Code, our Black Empowerment YouTube channel. You'll see the episodes right here. Episode 1 is done pretty well, 13,000 views. People are just starting to check out episode 2, right at about 1,000 views. But once again, you can check that out on our YouTube channel. And whoo! This concept, the declining significance of race, I just pulled it up. You know, you just mentioned it. I just said the declining significance of race PDF. It looks like the PDF is available. So Code Keepers, you definitely want to check into that. I also want to say that William Julius Wilson reminds me of Will Smith. He has some Will Smith vibes there. So if he's ever played, you know, if we ever do a biopic on him, maybe Will Smith will do it. He got the ears.
Can't you hear the people dancing and shaking and moving and grooving? No. And by the way, the race article you found, thank you so much. And people remember there's an entire book. So he published an entire book called The Declining Significance of Race. So if you appreciate the article that Brother Varda just showed you, please also consider getting the book. And he does not look like Will Smith. What in the world?
Okay. All right. Maybe to me. Hey, look, one of the things that I think is important is from time to time we disagree. And I think anybody who's watched our shows can see that already. From time to time, we disagree. One of the areas where we really disagreed at first was Thomas Sowell. I'm starting to see what you see. I'm not fully there yet.
You can't see what I can see. You're blind, baby. You're blind to the fact, like Flavor Flav said. No. You know I got to hit my favorite thing. Okay.
No problem. Another minstrel. I saw Thomas Sowell as a minstrel, and
a minstrel for what?
for evil supremacy.
What does that mean? What is evil supremacy? What they got to
It's
tell
it's another term for white supremacy. So it's
white supremacy.
okay. So when I
And
saw, I really thought he was another minstrel for evil supremacy. And the more I listened to some of his critiques, I'm starting to see him less and less pushing for, policies and concepts that are anti-black, and I'm starting to see a really more of a pull yourself up. We have our own resources. We have our own stuff. We can do this. I'm starting to see that little flavor in there, and I didn't see that at first.
I've provided Thomas Sowell readings to your viewers in the past, so I hope our people actually read. This is what I said earlier. Our people need to get beyond being told to dislike someone, being told to disagree with someone. Look here, we grown folk. Learn. I give entire access to almost all of his books, not all of them. It's okay to dislike one of his books. It's okay to disagree with some of the things he said. You have to understand the history of our people. If you dislike Thomas Sowell, you will dislike perhaps most of our ancestors and most of our elders once you actually find out their real viewpoints that they express when they're comfortable to speak around you. Most Black people have some form of conservatism. I try to avoid concepts of liberal, moderate, conservative, because that's a non-Black standard and criteria in the first place. But for people who insist on using those categories, I want you to understand the history of our people. Understand what you'll hear about Frederick Douglass, for goodness sake. Understand the first known Black conservative was George Schuler. And I have George Schuler writings that I can share with people as well on my shared Google Drive. George Schuler also did art. And this connects with Elaine Locke, Du Bois, and them, who talk about art as propaganda. And that's also part of the work that I do. I use art as propaganda for our people. Understand George Schuler was considered conservative back then, but he was so profound in possibly helping our people, such that Ella Baker considered doing a cooperative economic collaboration with George Schuler. It failed, but Ella Baker considered it. And that is a big deal when Ella Baker considers a collaboration.
I say that. Yeah, like I said, I originally wrote Thomas Sowell off. One of the things that, I originally wrote him off, not so much anymore. Booker T. Washington, you mentioned him. You mentioned Du Bois. Interestingly enough, on the grand campus of Hampton University, we have a tribute to Booker T, and then we also have a dormitory named after Du Bois. So that was always an interesting thing.
Yeah, and my brother, of course, went to Hampton.
Yeah, she's
also a sociologist.
Okay. I'm going to have to learn more about Anna J. Cooper.
Yep, Anna Julia Cooper wrote A Voice from the South. That was one of the earlier discussions of race and gender interlocking for Black women. Anna Julia Cooper also addressed gender and socioeconomic status. And so people can contact me for those readings. And I also see that you have Deidre Royster's race book up there. So Deidre Royster.
Oh, yes, this is intriguing.
Yes, so Race and the Invisible Hand of
This
Capitalism.
Is intriguing.
Yeah, so Race and the Invisible Hand there. And so Deidre Royster does a lot of important work, including sociological imagination, because Deidre Royster did a presentation. I might have still been in college when Deidre Royster was the presenter. But Deidre Royster also does work about sociological imagination for biracial children, because she's half Black, half white. And so Deidre Royster does look at those dueling identities that Black people often discuss. The dueling identities are the invisible hand. What does it mean for Black men to be told by white men that they are stealing jobs? And that's a huge deal for Black people to also talk about, because when we talk about issues of immigration is not a new issue when we're talking about, of course, the origins of Western Hemisphere population shift, but also when we talk about the Black population in the United States of America. The days of Marcus Garvey, there was tension between Blacks born and raised in USA and Caribbeans who migrated to USA for jobs. That was also a component of tension, because although we unite as Africans, the question is, now are we competing in the job market? Are we competing in the job market economically? And also regarding race, a lot of times people say that race only exists in the United States of America. They'll say Blacks in USA are so paranoid because you all see race, and race is not in Africa. Race is not in the Caribbean. Race is not in Jamaica. I've had some Jamaicans tell me race is not in Jamaica over the years. And I says, first of all, if you look at this is why I say Black Jamaicans, because we have East Indian Jamaicans, we have Asian
Chinese.
Jamaicans,
right?
Some of the trailblazers of reggae, Chinese Jamaicans, the people who make the most money from Jamaican tourism, white Jamaicans. That's the component of the origins. That's why Bob Marley was biracial. Marcus Garvey was big into addressing colorism. And of course, colorism originated from thousands of years of Arab Muslim colonizers who started colonizing first Northern Africa and pushing the Nubian Africans further south of the Northern African region. But colorism is a huge deal in Jamaica. And that's why Marcus Garvey talked about colorism so much. He was opposed to mulattoes. He was opposed to, so like race first, like people like me who are light skinned because of centuries of rapists would not be a central component of UNIA. We'd be members, but we would be put on the back to do different kind of work. So that's why when you see images of UNIA members on particularly West African lands, and Garvey was never allowed to go on to African lands, but when you see UNIA members in African lands, you'll see darker complexion UNIA members. So the lighter complexion UNIA members and overall lighter complexion Negroes back then who wanted to contribute to race first were told that you're still a Negro. However, you can't be the central race first poster child. Like, hey, I'm yellow, and non-Blacks, he would allow, for example, white Jews to be things like accountants. So he knew how to collaborate, but he did address issues of colorism. And sometimes he was considered to overemphasize it, which was part of the origins of the tensions that he had with W.B. Du Bois, was because Garvey overemphasized y'all yellow folk. Because Du Bois, of course, was, he was mulatto for a reason. So yeah, that's the origins of Du Bois' family.
And so look, Doc, you're going to drop some, well, I'm going to, of course, do it, but you're going to share with the Code Keepers some other additional links so they can get some more research, I'm sure.
Yeah, we can put it in the YouTube channel. I'll send you some links, and people
put
can
it in the
always
YouTube chat.
Okay.
In the YouTube chat.
Okay. And also, our people can communicate with me. Y'all acting like I'm some alien life form. Y'all can contact me and get information as well. So yeah,
it's going to happen. It's going to happen. Hey, Code Keepers, we've been doing another great episode of what?